Yamunatiravanacharya Yamunatiravanacharya Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadhari Yasodanandana Prahladananda Yasodanandana Prahladananda Yamunatiravanacharya Yamunatiravanacharya Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jayam Vishupad Paramahamsa Prabhudakacharya Asadhara Sadushi Shiman His Divine Grace Shalasi Bhaktivedanta Swaraj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Gaur Premanande Haribo All glories to the Sound devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Aganatmanandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chaksur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Pandeham Shri Guru Shri Uttapara Shri Guru Vaishnavam Scha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Vrajana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vasakans Vitam Scha Hey Krishna Karna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishubhanu Siddhadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakalpa Drubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patiranam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Pranitananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 2, Daksha curses Lord Śiva, text number 29. Naṣṭa-śaucā naṣṭa-śaucā mūḍha-dhiyo jaṭā-bhasmāsthi-dhāriṇaḥ viśantu śiva-dīkṣāyāṁ yatra daivaṁ sura-āsavam naṣṭa-śaucā mūḍha-dhiyo jaṭā-bhasmāsthi-dhāriṇaḥ viśantu śiva-dīkṣāyāṁ yatra daivaṁ sura-āsavam. Ladies, viśantu śiva-dīkṣāyāṁ yatra daivaṁ surāsavam naṣṭa-śaucā mūḍha-dhiyo daivaṁ surāsavam naṣṭa-śaucā, cleanliness being abandoned. mūḍha-dhiyaḥ, foolish. jaṭā-bhasmā-asthi-dhāriṇaḥ, wearing long hair, ashes and bones. Viśantu, may enter. Śiva-dīkṣāyāṁ, into worship of Śiva. Yatra, where daivaṁ are spiritual. Sura-āsavam, wine and liquor. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Those who vow to worship Lord Śiva are so foolish that they imitate him by keeping long hair on their heads. When initiated into the worship of Lord Śiva, they prefer to live on wine, flesh, and other things, such things. Please repeat, those who vow to worship Lord Śiva are so foolish that they imitate him by keeping long hair on their heads. When initiated into worship of Lord Śiva, they prefer to live on wine, flesh, and other such things. Purport. Indulging in wine and meat, keeping long hair on one's head, not bathing daily, and smoking gāñjā, marijuana, are some of the habits which are accepted by foolish creatures who do not have regulated lives. By such behavior, one becomes devoid of transcendental knowledge. In the initiation into the Shiva mantra, there are mudrikāṣṭaka, in which it is sometimes recommended that one make his sitting place on the vagina and thus desire nirvāṇa or dissolution of existence. In that process of worship, wine is needed, or sometimes in the place of wine, palm tree juice, which is converted into an intoxicant. This is also offered according to the Śiva-āgama, a scripture on the method of worshiping Lord Śiva. So the text again, those who vow to worship Lord Śiva are so foolish that they imitate him by keeping long hair on their heads. When initiated into the worship of Lord Śiva, they prefer to live on wine, flesh, and other such things. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutaya Śrīmate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswatam Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvishesha Shnivadi Paskadyade Siddharne. Fighting is not only in Kali Yuga, it's part of the universal theme, fight and dissension. And here, this is not Kali Yuga, this is the planets of the demigods performing a sacrifice that even the great demigods such as Lord Brahma are attending in Lord Śiva, and yet quarrel is breaking out. Which means that quarrel is inevitable anywhere in the material world, from the highest planet down to the lowest. Because everyone has come here to the material existence in order to achieve some material objective. And the basic material objective is that everyone wants to become the supreme. And to become the supreme requires some degree of illusion, some degree of forgetfulness of who we actually are. And this, the material nature provides that as soon as we have that desire to be something that we're not, namely the enjoyers and the controllers. Of course, most people, they think trying to become the enjoyer is rather innocent. Trying to become the controller is rather innocent. Matter of fact, the whole society is glorifying the people who can enjoy more and control more. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj said, Matirna Krishne patak satova vityo bipadyeta griha vratadam. Matir means where we put our consciousness. So that's the only thing we really have is consciousness at the present moment. And even when we go to the spiritual world, no one is really thinking that this is my Chintamani palace, this is my calf or cow, that everyone is in the understanding that everything here belongs to Krishna, and Krishna has given everything to everyone else. There's a sense of proprietorship, and control is not really there. Material control is not there. The sense of trying to please someone, please Krishna specifically, is there not in order to control Krishna, but to make Krishna happy. That's the only thing that's really in the spiritual world. Trying to make Krishna and his devotees happy, because Krishna is happy when his devotees are happy. But here, dhyayato vishayam pumsa. Because we're not Krishna conscious, and because generally speaking the material world is boring, we're always looking for something to make us happy. Because happiness is our basic consciousness, we exist for happiness. Krishna exists for happiness, so his devotees also exist for happiness. But when we don't know that happiness is found in Krishna, then we have to look for happiness somewhere else. And therefore, dhyato, we look around, what will make me happy? So modern civilization, in many places, people will have big stores with windows, of course, and people go window shopping. Of course, now they have the big stores, and you don't need a window to go shopping. And they're making it as attractive as possible so that one captures the mind, the attention, and as soon as the attention is captured, then one tries to see something that one can chew on, that will make one satisfied, some taste, something. Vishayam pumsam, sangha, dhyato vishayam pumsam. So as soon as dhyato, contemplation, is there, and we find something attractive, then the material nature gives us love in the material world in the form of lust. Because after all, we're utilizing this mind, body, intelligence to find something attractive, and it's all artificial because we're not the body or the mind, but we're desiring that this body be utilized in a certain way, and therefore, since we're not seeing Krishna, material nature artificially covers us with lust. And then we start thinking this is love. I'm attracted to it. But actually, this is material experience called lust. And then from lust comes greed, actually. If we like what we've experienced, then we want more of it. Why not? Why not get more of it? What's wrong with getting more of it? That ice cream was good. Why not another one? And another one. And another one. Until we get sick or whatever happens, or we can't afford another one. Or we have enough intelligence to decide that enough is enough. 15 ice creams is sufficient for today. There's another day. And from there comes anger. Because after all, the first lick was nice, the second one was a little less nice, and then finally we discussed it. I can't lick anymore. Or it's gone. It was here, but now it's disappeared. Frustration. I was enjoying, and now I'm not enjoying anymore. Now I got to suffer the consequences. Or Srila Prabhupada, one day some devotee came to Srila Prabhupada and said, Prabhupada, it was actually Shruti Kirti. Shruti Kirti was Prabhupada's personal servant for so many years, and Prabhupada told him, don't go into the kitchen and cook. What's that? Who's right here? Yeah, listen. But he did it anyhow. He went into the kitchen one day and he started to cook, and then Prabhupada could see the future, anyone's future, but he saw his future, and then love struck. He found some goddess of fortune in the kitchen, and he started to think he was Narayan, and then romance found in the Hare Krishna kitchen. So then he decided he'd get married, and because he got married, he couldn't travel with Prabhupada. And he came to Prabhupada and said, Srila Prabhupada said, Prabhupada, I'm so unfortunate, now I can't travel with you and act as your servant. So Prabhupada gave the example, he said, just before the Sunday feast, everyone is thinking, at least previously, I don't know how good the Sunday feast is anymore, but the Sunday feast used to be really good compared to what we were usually eating, which is, some places they were eating rolled oats, some oats and cooked in water with salt during the week. That was New Vrindavan. And, well, we were, most of the time we were eating, khichdi, maybe. Actually it was porridge. The main thing was porridge. Khichdi wasn't. Heavenly porridge. And if you could, with sugar, oats, and milk if it was opulent, heavenly porridge, everything. So, Sunday feast used to be glabdamins and halava, curd sabjis, malpuras, glabdamins, all kinds of. So that used to be the standard feast. So devotees would look forward to the feast, maybe too much. Now I can enjoy. So after the feast, the devotees think, I can't wait till the feast comes. And finally the feast comes, and afterwards they don't feel so well, and they think, oh, if only there wasn't a feast, I wouldn't be so sick. So they start lamenting, hankering and lamenting. So Prabhupada told Shruti Kirti, he said, yes, it's just like before the feast, I can't wait for the feast, and afterward, oh, so much lamentation. So I can't wait till I'm in love, I'm in love. Or Jayadvaita Maharaj said, what begins in courting often winds up in court. So I can't wait, now I'm married, I can't wait, and life is going to be sublime, and then one starts lamenting, oh, this is not what I wanted, maybe I need another one. There was a commercial, you may have seen it, it was on the internet, actually on television, all over. It was an advertisement for some kind of water, I forget the name of the water. And a cowboy is riding on his horse, and he has his bottle of water in his saddle. And then he hears a damsel crying, help, help. And he comes over, stops the horse, looks over, and he sees a beautiful damsel hanging on a tree on the edge of a cliff. And he's going to get his rope to save her. She can grab hold of the rope, and he can pull her off from the tree. She won't fall off. The tree's on the cliff, and she's hanging off the cliff. There's a cliff, then there's a tree outstretched on the cliff, and she's hanging off the tree, and someone has to save her. So he gets the rope to throw her the rope, and she can be saved, and etc. And then he decides to take a sip of water, and then the water is so powerful he sees the future. And he sees himself, after saving the heavenly damsel, he gets married, and then he has this child, and he's feeding the child, and his wife walks into the room with these curlers in her hair, all these pin, what are they called? Pin. And his mother-in-law walks in and starts yelling at him, telling him what to do, and he gets illuminated by drinking the water. I don't know what was in the water, maybe. It was an advertisement for the water. And then so he takes the rope, puts it back on the saddle, and rides away. So this is kind of illumination, because most of the world is thinking, now I'm going to be happy, now I'm going to enjoy. And then they wind up lamenting. Especially in modern society, where people don't know how to be happy in household life. They don't really know how to enjoy. There is enjoyment, there is happiness in the household life, but it has to be based on religious principles, not on whimsical sense gratification. Therefore, materia means we don't know where to put our consciousness because we have no knowledge. Materia na Krishna, paratak satova, mito bipadyede, griha ratanam. Because we don't know that we're supposed to put our consciousness on Krishna, we don't know nate vidu swartakatim hi Vishnu, that the goal is Vishnu. And that while we're trying to become Krishna conscious, there are so many different stages that we can participate in, which will eventually lead us to the goal. But people are materia na Krishna because they don't put their consciousness on Krishna. Therefore they go on endlessly, paratak satova, mito bipadyeta. They go on endlessly discussing amongst themselves about how to become happy, how to become successful, how to become so many things. Therefore in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Abhijananti mamhuda manushim tanum ashrityam param bhavam ajanato mama bhuta maheshwaram. So he uses the word mūḍha, ass. Prahlad Maharaj uses the word vimudha, super ass. Not just a regular ass, but a super ass. That the whole world, the whole universe is full of asses, and then there is the super asses. There are differences between the asses and the super asses. The super asses are, well, it's hard to say actually. There's the mūḍha, then there is the naradama, then there's the maya pritiyana, and the ashram bhavam ashritya. The bhavam ashritya, asuram bhavam ashritya, those are the Brahmins who've turned into demons, like Ravana's Brahmanas, or Kamsa's Brahmanas. They've decided, they've cultivated knowledge, they realize that they're not their body, that they're spirit, but they've decided that they're going to become God themselves, somehow or another. After all, they're eternal, they want to spend eternity as God. So they have knowledge, but the knowledge is not only stolen by illusion, but they become envious of God. They're asuram ashrita. They've taken shelter of enviousness against Krishna. They're not only envious of Krishna, but they're consciously envious of Krishna and everyone else. Therefore, the Matirana Krishna Parataksatova Mito Bipadyeta Grihat. The last thing they want to do is become conscious of Krishna. That's the first thing on the list that they're going to forget about, or help others forget about, is Krishna. Or if they do remember Krishna, they're going to kill Krishna. I studied psychology at the university, and this type of psychology I studied was called behavioral modification, which more or less was kind of convince everyone there were just a bunch of stimuli and reflexes. But the head of the founder of that type of psychology, his name was B.F. Skinner, and his actual objective was to figure out how the material world works, how to get into the spiritual world, eventually how to find the Supreme there and kill him. So he was cultivating knowledge, not with the idea of spreading love of God, but with the idea that if you get enough knowledge, you can figure things out, you can find out who's the source of everything, who's the original Father, the Supreme Lord, and then kill him and take his place. Therefore, Matirana Krishna, that's the basic principle of material existence, is take Krishna away. And everyone's discussing it. It may seem very innocent, but Prabhupada was giving I heard a tape many times so far. Prabhupada said, yeah, they came yesterday, they wanted to discuss things, but they didn't ask any questions about Krishna. Nothing about Krishna, nothing about God, nothing about the purpose. All they were talking about was their sense gratification. That's what they wanted to find out. So everyone's talking just about their sense gratification. That's called karma. Everyone's talking about knowledge, how to figure out how to have not just more sense gratification, but better sense gratification. And ultimately moksha, how to have, or mystic power, how to have the supreme sense gratification. Therefore Krishna says, Mogaisha Moga Karmano Moga Jnana Vichetasaha Rakshasim Asrim Chaiva Prakriti Mohanim Shitaha. So this word Mogaisha means deluded. Everyone is deluded. It is not that the mūḍhas are deluded, or the naradamas, the fools are deluded, the sense gratifiers are deluded, the lowest of mankind are deluded, the speculators are deluded. Those who are interested in merging in Brahman are deluded. Everyone is deluded in the material world to different degrees, that's all. And therefore, although the aim is to become happy, the aim is to know how to become happy, and everyone's trying to figure out how to become happy, but in the material world. But in the material world means that happiness is going to wind up griha vratana, to try to figure out how to expand what's already painful and bewildering and ignorant, how to expand that. So what do you get? When you expand nothing, you expand more nothing. In other words, if our aim is to become happy, but we're expanding it by making ourselves less miserable, it never adds up to happiness. Therefore, griha means that we originally were living in a house. The house is called the material body and the material conception of life. Let's make the house strong, our body strong, live long as possible, be able to enjoy sense gratification to the maximum. Let's figure out how to do that. That's called griha. And then to expand it. Make my family happy because my wife and children are disturbed, I'll be disturbed. So try to make them happy, try to make our house comfortable, try to make everyone in our neighborhood should have a mowed lawn. Our country should have somehow or another be proud and safe and whatever. Make everything as pleasurable as possible and expand it as much as possible. That's called griha vrata. And to make a vow that we're going to make this material world perfect as possible. It's like you're traveling in the road for a long distance and you have to use the restroom. You come to the restroom on your travels and you decided, I'm going to stay here for a while and paint the restroom. Because if I got to use a restroom, it should be a nice restroom. So you stop your journey, you start painting the restroom, bring in flowers, bring in a few pictures, bring in some piped in music. So when you're using the restroom, you'll have a pleasant experience. You forgot about your journey, you're spending all your time in the restroom trying to improve it. So that's called griha vrata. I'm going to stay here and improve this world, make it a nice place to live in. And what is it? Vatirna Krishna parataksato va mito bipadyeta griha vratanam adanta gobir vishatam tamizram punak punascharvata charvananam. The whole aim is gratify the senses. Adanta gobira vishatam. The senses are pushing us to make this world a nice place, and we're very sincerely following their instructions according to our conception, trying to make it a nice place, and there's no end to it. But it winds up to be the same thing over and over again. No one makes this world any better than it was before they came, ultimately. In the sense that no one achieves real happiness here. No one achieves eternity here. No one achieves knowledge just by living in the material world of how to attain real happiness eternally. So it's punak punascharvata charvananam. So here we find that they're cursing. They're going to curse Shiva's followers. Shiva's followers are going to curse the Brahmins. It's one big unhappy cursing place. Everyone's criticizing each other, but no one really knows what the real standard of happiness is. The Brahmins are thinking, oh, these people don't shave, they take intoxication, they're not vegetarians, but they don't see the soul. The real thing is, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, that if you're actually properly engaged, tad buddhiyas, tad atmanas, tad nishtas, tad parayanaha, gacchanyapana arvitim, jnanini duta kalmashaha, that if you actually use your intelligence to gain real knowledge, then your mind will become Krishna conscious. That's what you should hear about if you really want happiness. And then when you become Krishna conscious, when you're thinking about when you're thinking about Krishna, then niṣṭa, that's tad buddhiyas, tad atmana, tad niṣṭa. Then you'll actually find what you're really looking for, which is shelter in Krishna, or happiness in Krishna, liberation from our false conceptions. Then parayana, then we'll know that whatever we're doing, whatever we're thinking, whatever we're talking about should be taking shelter of Krishna. And therefore one can see everyone on some kind of path, especially here, even the worshippers of Shiva or the Brahmins, they're all on the path, ultimately directing one towards Krishna. That's what the Vedas are. Prabhupada was in Mayapur in the 70s, and they had these big speakers during Durga Puja. In India, if you go there, they have these huge speakers, and they're blasting music during all these festivals. And they were singing, "The hills are alive," and blasting on the sound from the speakers. The hills are alive with the sound of music. You've heard that. There was some play. What is the name of the play? The Sound of Music was the movie. Sound of Music. And it was blasting, and this is Durga Puja. This is how they're worshiping. Of course, it's more too elaborate than simply that. And then he asked Prabhupada, who is better? The Christians are better, or these people who are worshiping Durga by this festival? And Prabhupada said those who are worshiping Durga are better, because at least they're following the Vedic culture, the Vedic philosophy, the Vedic culture, and eventually they'll become Krishna conscious, because that's what the culture is meant for, to lead one to Krishna. So similarly, here we find as an example in the 4th canto, people are the demigods are in Maya. We think, let me go to the heavenly planets and enjoy there in a Krishna conscious way. But they're also in Maya. Those who are thinking, criticizing the others, thinking I'm superior, these people are inferior. Instead of thinking I'm superior, let me help them become Krishna conscious. That's real superior. Yari deka tarikaha Krishna upadesh amar aga guruhana taridesh. Instead they're following the bad example of their leader, the Brahmins, by cursing. Daksha cursed Lord Śiva. Lord Shiva's followers cursed the Brahmins. This is a mess, all because of enviousness of Lord Śiva, and therefore so much problems. Not seeing that Lord Śiva properly, that he was in meditation in Krishna consciousness, and therefore such an important personality in the universe, Daksha, because of lack of Krishna consciousness, so many problems were created. Not understanding things properly. But we're fortunate enough, we can see from the perspective of Srimad Bhagavatam. And what do we see? Samam sarveshu bhuteshu tishtantam parameshwaram vinasha vinashantam yapashyati sapashyati. One who can see the soul within all bodies, along with the super soul, and knows that neither the soul nor the super soul within the destructible body is ever destroyed. So someone's on one platform in the material world, someone's on another platform in the material world, but we're all in the material world. Wet stool and dry stool. So whatever situation we're in is probably compared to stool. I guess that's what the scriptures. In India they have a controversy that people pass stool on the field, and some of it is dry, which gets baked by the sun, but the part that's not facing the sun is still wet. So they argue which is better, wet stool or dry stool, but the subject is stool. So whether we're Brahmins or Kshatriyas or Vaishyas or Sudras or Mudhas or whatever else, we're still in the material world. And if rather than criticizing each other for what we think we are, try to see who we actually are and try to help the person become Krishna conscious, rather than criticizing them for being in a certain state of life, under certain modes of nature. Therefore Krishna says, samam pachanhi savatra samavasitim ishvaram ehinasyatmanatmanam tato yiti param gitim. One who sees the super soul coming to all bodies, and who knows that neither the soul nor the super soul within the destructible body is ever destroyed. Oh no. One who sees that the super soul is equal everywhere, in all bodies, does not degrade himself by his mind, thus he approaches the supreme destination. So rather than immediately feeling ourselves superior, as they asked Prabhupada, you're giving us this philosophy, this in Sweden, you're giving us all this philosophy about first-class men, second-class men, etc. So we suppose that you must think yourself to be a first-class man, right? The brother said, no, I'm fifth class, because I'm a servant of all the other classes. So that's a Vaishnava. Not that I'm a Brahmin or a Kshatriya or anything. I'm a servant of the servant of the servant of Krishna, and because of that I'm trying to make everyone else understand that the goal of life is to become a servant of Krishna. That's what our movement's about. Not to point out how wonderful we are and how bad everyone else is. We're not so good either sometimes, and people are not so bad sometimes. But we're good as we become Krishna conscious and try to help others become Krishna conscious. Then we're good. And as soon as we forget that and start feeling ourselves to be better than others, then Maya takes our intelligence away, and all we can expect is trouble and difficulty, like the Daksha Yajna. If we're fighting sometimes with each other, or even the seed is criticism. Why do we criticize? Because we like to feel ourselves superior to others. And we like to compare ourselves to others. I have this body, they have this body, therefore I'm superior. Although we're all in Maya, here in the material world, until we become Krishna conscious and utilize ourselves completely as the servant of Krishna, as the servant of everyone ultimately, to help them become Krishna conscious, fulfill the purpose of material existence. So we don't give up our discrimination, but we utilize it so we can appropriately help others become Krishna conscious. So I'll stop there. Thank you. Any questions or comments? Yes.
Thank you, Maharaj. I have a question, but I wanted to make a short announcement that this evening at 3744 unit number 4 where I live, we'll be having an evening program with Maharaj beginning at 6:30 with a short kirtan and then Bhagavad Gita class. Everyone is invited.
Is there a prasadam at the end?
Yeah, I think we have a surprise happening.
Okay, good. I'll come for that.
I'll be there too. My question is, we hear about the superlative character of Lord Śiva, but in these verses we're hearing how he's worshipped in many ghastly ways and with many ghastly items. Why is there so much of this and not how to worship Lord Śiva in a more suitable, glorious way, being a supreme Vaishnava, instead of hearing all of this dark, devilish things?
Well, that's not how you... First of all, that's the problem for having disciples who don't listen to you or follow you properly. As you know, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada was asked, how many disciples do you have? He said, I have 4. So the person who asked him was very surprised because apparently he had thousands of disciples. He said, well, I thought you had a lot more than just 4. He said, no, I only have 4. My 2 hands and my 2 legs, because they're the only ones I'm sure will listen to me. So, Poor Lord Śiva, he's sitting there in meditation, ecstasy on about meditating on Lord Vishnu, Krishna, Vaishnava, Yatāsambu, the topmost Vaishnava. But look at his followers, what they're doing. He gets up, tolerant, leaves, and they start cursing the Brahmins. So obviously, you may have some, quote, disciples, followers, but they must understand and give you a bad reputation. But we find in Brihad Bhagavatamrita how to worship Lord Śiva properly when Gop Kumara goes to Mahashiva Loka, and they're always engaged in kirtan there. They don't do these other things. But when people misunderstand, because Lord Śiva, he's so merciful, he doesn't always get first-class disciples. He gets disciples generally of lower classes because he's very merciful, trying to elevate them. And so he's not responsible for what they do. You know, he doesn't tell them to eat meat or take intoxication. He doesn't smoke he doesn't smoke gāñjā. He drinks the ocean of poison to save the demigods and the universe. But they misunderstand that, you know. He takes a little poison. We can take poison too. It's just a question. That's what happens when you get disciples. People think, well, I'm going to get disciples. It's just like you get married, you think, now I'm going to get married and I'm going to get a slave. She's going to do my laundry and cook for me. And I always needed a slave. And then you wind up, you find out you're a slave. The wife didn't marry you thinking she was going to serve you. She looked for a slave too. And you got to make it, therefore you need a marriage counselor. Convince each other marriage is not about finding slaves, it's about doing service. It's quite a shock to most. So similarly, becoming a guru, shiksha-diksha, it's not about finding slaves, it's about becoming a servant. You need a guru counselor for that, to find out what the actual role is. So these, Lord Śiva picked up a lot of people in the mode of ignorance as his followers, but they don't necessarily properly follow him. Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for your wonderful class and for helping us become more Krishna consciousness. I have a question. How can we stop criticizing and finding faults in others when it becomes like a habit? How can we do that? Because...
Well, that's why we have sadhana bhakti. That's why we have preaching. So that we can ask Krishna to help us engage us in his loving service. And if we're engaged in his loving service, all these other habits will go away. Because they're not our real nature. They're just, we've been bewildered by the illusory energy into doing these things. But if we chant Hare Krishna offenselessly, follow the process that Prabhupada has given us of the sadhana and the service, then gradually Krishna will take these things away.
Thank you.
Yes, one more question, okay.
Thank you, Maharaj, for your wonderful class. So you were talking how lust manifests in different ways, and you gave the example of eating. Sometimes we overeat. So my question is, when do we know that it's lust and it's not lust in terms of eating? Because sometimes I see gulab jamun sweet and prasad is good, and I want to try, but I end up eating a lot, and then I have some.
Like you're eating that much.
So when do we know it's lust and when do we know it's not lust?
As soon as we forget Krishna, it's lust. As soon as we remember Krishna, it's devotional service. Yeah, I mean, in other words, if we decided that I'm only going to eat when I'm in love of God, we'd all starve to death. Therefore, prasadam, if we vaguely remember its relation with Krishna, we're doing quite well. And if we completely forget its relation with Krishna, then we're much more likely to overeat or undereat or whatever. So we have to have, therefore we're supposed to say, usually we say the prayer beforehand just to vaguely remind us that this is prasadam and we should honor it and remember Krishna during, in other words, there's not, time out for remembering Krishna, it's time to eat. It's the time most important we remember Krishna and appreciate the fact that he's given us this prasadam so we can use it in his service. It's not a time out from Krishna consciousness. I think we get to stop there. Thank you very much. Grandharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanande.